In the last session, we had stopped at this point. And now, remember, most more commonly used packages should go down the layer. Let's actually do it. Let's see how we can resolve the issue that I had brought up. The dependency being in the other direction, from a more general layer to a more specific layer. Now, so first we need to understand why this dependency is coming, or from where is it coming, or where is it required. Now, let's actually go into common UI and see. And to understand this, we need to create a diagram. So let's go to manage experts, and instead of let's actually create a separate package for this. Let's say common UI. Okay. And because this can be a little bit confusing, the hierarchy, let's create a separate package and name it as design diagrams, and let common UI go into this, and manage experts also go inside that. Now under common UI, let's create a diagram, a class diagram. Now let's bring in main form, menu item. Yes. And remember, there are two relationships here. And from our application layer, administration, let's bring in the expert form, right? Now, if you look at this, these are in common UI and this is in administration. Because of this, and because of this, the dependency is in this direction. Okay, so let's bring in these two packages in that diagram also. So let's bring in common UI, and the other one is administration. Okay, so we need to reverse this dependency. Instead of common UI depending on administration, administration should depend on common UI. So it's not just a question of moving common UI to application layer and administration to business layer, because based on some criteria we have allocated these packages. So let's understand this. So first of all, this composition relationship, let's take care of that. So let's create a class. By the way, if I have to explain this slightly in a roundabout way, as we develop other use cases, we would end up with, let's say for manage subject, we would have a subject form. Similarly, we would have many other forms, and in each case we would have this relationship, right? And this would be created by some other menu item. Yes, so we would have these forms. Now the moment you see this, you realize something. You could think in terms of these being different types of forms, right? So let's call it as form, and form itself is not going to be instantiated, so let's make it abstract, which means these two are different types of forms. which means I can remove this from here and this I can take it up. So let's change the line style and line style. Right now, if you notice, this composition relationship has gone up. So that means main form contains form, a type of form, or different types of forms. Now this form has got created here. So let's move it to, now where would this form go? Now form again can be reused across, so it will go to common UI. Now look at the dependency. What has happened? Main form can contain different types of forms. They both are here. And this form, or sorry, the expert form is a type of form. So the dependency has got reversed. Right? But does it mean that this dependency is gone? No. Again, we have this, right? Menu item creates. So menu item creates an instance of expert form. So you might say, okay, why not take this upwards? Yeah, that would be the simplest way of taking care of it. But remember, in the constructor call here, the expert form name appears, right? So the dependency still exists. Okay, and you can't really call the constructor of this, right? So let's see what we can do here. Change the way you look at the whole thing. These are going to be reusable, right? That means they will have their own properties, behavior and all that. And you don't want the users or the developer of this to directly start using this. Usually what happens is when you're using framework classes, unless the solution is completely provided by the framework classes, they are declared as abstract and you basically inherit from it and provide whatever changes that you want. So let's do something similar. What we are going to do is create a class. So let's say my main form, right? So let's make some space. My main form, my menu, and my menu item. Now, how do we distinguish it? And naturally, for the form also, we require a class. My form. Now here, this inherits from this inherits from this, and my menu item inherits from this. My form inherits from this. But this is also abstract. So now what happens? Because this inherits from this, and my main form, my form contains, this is being inherited, right? Similarly, my menu is inheriting this composition relationship, and because of this, my menu item is inheriting all these relationships, right? So which means I can say that this my menu item creates an instance of this, and similarly My menu item creates an instance of this. So now apart from that, this would be inheriting from this and this would be inheriting from this. Now let's move this to this side and let's see. Let's bring it down. Let's zoom out. Now see whether this makes sense. These are different types. This is a type of main form, or it inherits from main form, inherits from menu, inherits from my menu item. Okay, this creates this, this creates this. This is a type of form. Form is part of this. So indirectly, my form is part of my main form. Right? Okay. So in the process, did we reverse the dependency because of this as well? Menu item creating instance of this. Now instead of menu item, my menu item is going to create an instance of expert form. So this dependency is also reversed. See, we don't really need to, you might feel, why should I bother with all these things? Because anyhow, I'm using a framework and there I'm provided all these UI related classes. So now our focus is more on understanding the O concepts, analysis and design concepts, and that's why I have included these things. Most probably a lot of these things are being used inside the design of the frameworks itself. Okay, so which means if we go back here, I can now change this dependency, right? I can change this dependency and I don't actually, okay, this is already there. So now by carrying out that, this has got reversed. Now apart from that, remember JDBC, right? We created this. Now similar to that, here I just kept it simple with naming class, but actually a little bit more extra detail is required. So UML structural, again let me just create a separate package and let me say mechanisms, right? And under this let me add a package called persistence mechanism, right? And let me bring in this diagram. Instead of showing it there, let's put it here. So whatever we discussed, I'm just putting it in a separate location. Now similarly, let me create another one. Let me say distribution. Now again I add a diagram, a class diagram, and let me show naming. Now just naming is not enough. Remember, you have an expert form, right? You have an expert form wanting to talk to expert manager, which is located somewhere else. Actually, a few additional steps are required. We need to have an abstract class called unicast remote object. We need to define an interface for this expert manager, i.e. expert manager, and this expert manager has to realize, extend an interface called a remote, right? This remote comes from Java RMI. So this will inherit from this, and this will realize this. This is an abstract class, so it will realize this abstract class, and it will extend this interface, and the expert manager would in turn realize this interface. And once we have done this, let's put these classes in the appropriate places. My main form, my these three, and this will go where? Will go into actually a application specific common UI, right? So we need to create a separate package, testing menu system, and we can move all this to this, and this common UI we can take it down, right? Now where will these classes go? Actually in this case we don't have any choice, because they come from specific RMI. Within RMI we have a package called server. So unicast remote object comes from that server, remote comes from RMI, and I expert manager will go to wherever expert manager is there, that is there in administration, right? And this diagram we don't require. Okay, so distribution mechanism, this is manage expert. Where is persistence go? I think I moved it somewhere. Yes. And distribution and persistence. And this name also, let's change it to persistence. So what's happening? How is our structure looking now? Remember, primarily we have domain model, analysis model, design model. And if you think about it, this domain model is also at the level of analysis. So we can shift that to analysis model. So within analysis model, we have domain model, and we have the various use case level realizations. Under design model, we have the overall structure of the application or design. We have the various layers. Then under design diagrams, we have common UI, manage experts, mechanisms. And actually this also we can move it under mechanisms, right? Do we have to make any changes here now? And here this is server. Now who is talking to? Now we need to do a little bit of further investigation. Form depends on the interface. I expert manager. I expert manager is is being realized by expert manager. Expert manager is inheriting from I expert manager is inheriting from remote, that is there here. So this is already taken care of. Okay, and then the expert manager is there here is inheriting from the unicast remote object which is there here. So we have this, and I think we got everything. So that is a little bit additional design. So let's move this here so that we can see it properly. So like this, you need to really be conscious of every aspect. So while doing all these things, even though you are looking at a particular use case in depth, you're actually drilling down the use case itself, but your thinking should still be horizontal. Now, while going through the model as part of the review process, I realized I had made a few mistakes. One was that I had not shown this. I confused this with this one. Okay, so we reverse this dependency. And the other part was in this distribution. This is an interface. It can't realize this. So it is going to, expert manager is going to inherit from, not realize, inherit from unicast remote object. So expert manager is going to realize this interface and extend this or inherit from unicast remote object. So that was the other thing where I had made a mistake. Another thing was in the manage experts, right? We made a lot of changes, right? So we need to incorporate those changes into our diagram for manage expert, right? Now here what we should do is bring in the UIs, right? My main form, my menu, my menu, my menu item, yes, and my form, and bring in the form. Now where is form? That will be there in common UI, yes. So let's make some space, right? So now everything seems to be connected. Similarly, we need to bring in the JDBC classes. That's okay, you got the idea. So those were some things that I had missed out. So that is, now let me zoom out so that you can have an overall picture. This is how our design would look like. I think that's enough for this session. Bye.